All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, Hillary has an email problem to go with the laundry list of other problems that she has. And although the New York Times wrote the piece and put it out on the eve of the most anticipated political speech in many, many years to try to hide it, I believe, and bury it, nonetheless, it is out. And we're talking about it. And also, Raffi Williams, Deputy Press Secretary for Youth and Conservative Media for the RNC. I love saying that. He's talking about it. Hello, Raffi.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. So, you know, I never cease to be amazed. The Clintons think they could get away with anything. I think we learned that just if you just take the past couple of weeks with the revelation that they not only continue to take money for their foundation from foreign countries when everybody thought they had stopped when Hillary was Secretary of State, but they were allowed to under some cockamamie deal worked out with Obama, and still they violated that deal with at least one country. Now we find out she used her personal email and her personal email only during her tenure as Secretary of State. I mean, which is in violation of another statute.
Well, I mean, this is a long laundry list of examples of the Clintons not thinking they're like everybody else, not thinking they have to play by the rules. And you have to ask the question here. If she was being lobbied by some of these countries as Secretary of State while they're giving to the Clinton Foundation, what are on these emails? Because the emails, the ones that have been shared, are only shared by her staff. They're determining which is personal, which is public, and this is not a good example. There's no oversight here. In '08, she said that she's one of the most transparent people who has a large profile like she does, but we can see from these examples that she's been nothing but opaque for this time period, and it's troubling as she approaches to run for the presidency. Who's going to be lobbying the Clinton Foundation if she wins? What are going to be the conflicts of interest?
Wow.
We got to assume she's not going to tell us what's going on here because her past examples have set the precedent that she's going to be opaque over transparent.
I'm beginning to think when she says transparent, and she had talked about how she, summons Eleanor Roosevelt, maybe she thinks people could actually literally see through her. Maybe that's what she means by transparent, because it's certainly not the other meaning. All right, so Raffi, I mean, I'm hearing people make excuses. Well, Colin Powell didn't use, he used a personal email also. People have to understand, back then, email was really not a big deal, so much so that his successor, Condoleezza Rice, didn't even use email, and the law that Hillary broke here was not in place under Colin Powell.
Well, that's absolutely right. That the statute wasn't in place during Colin Powell. Condoleezza Rice didn't use email. And you have to also remember here, this is not only a transparency issue, it's also a security issue. Personal emails are much easier to hack into than government emails are. So what were the Chinese, the Russians, were they monitoring Iran? Were they monitoring her emails here? This puts all U.S. national security at risk if the Secretary of State's emails are getting read.
All right. Okay. So, I mean, I guess this is just more for you guys to bank, and more for the nominee to eventually bring up. I just hope they're not intimidated into thinking. Yeah, go ahead.
I also think that you're going to see a lot of Dem activists who already are wary about Hillary Clinton and are supporters of Elizabeth Warren start to speak out more and more on these kind of issues. Especially they started speaking out on the fundraising issue, saying that it's unethical. And now with these email issues,
right,
a lot of the Dem base is into this transparency, and it's going to cause a big headache for her in the long run.
I hope you're right. Nancy Pelosi tweeted out after Netanyahu's speech that she was near tears for the entire speech. If you look at the video, she looks very disturbed, very unhappy. She accused Netanyahu of being condescending to the United States of America. Your response to her tweet and her remarks?
Well, I think that Netanyahu said that this is the greatest legislative body when in his introductory remarks there, and I think that Netanyahu is really speaking the truth to these powerful legislators because they need to know the truth about what a danger Iran is to the world and especially Israel.
Yeah, and so you think he knocked it out of the park like I think he knocked it out of the park?
I think that you can hear from the sound of the Capitol Dome while that speech was going on. It felt like something was going to erupt. I thought you could almost hear it across the street here. I think that Netanyahu did a very good job, and I think his point was well received by many here.
All right. Good job, as always. Nice talking to you. Appreciate it, Raffi.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, thank you. All right, folks. And we should point out, in case you're not aware, that in my view, Boehner caved. It was predictable. DHS, clean bill, funding it for through the end of the fiscal year, passed the House today because the Republicans have no guts, because Boehner has no guts. All the Senate had to do was change the rules as the Democrats changed the rules, give it a 51-vote threshold. It would have passed the Senate. It would have passed the House, that defunding the immigration law, and then you could have sent it to the president. He would have vetoed the Department of Homeland Financing, and he would have had to explain that he did it because an unconstitutional law was not included. But the Republicans don't know how to do that. David Horowitz is next.